Morning, fifth grade. So I thought it'd be fun for us to read a book together because, well, we're separate right now, but I still want us to stay connected and you still learning. So I picked a book. Most of my books that you guys have read or seen are all at school. So I tried to pick one that you guys might not know yet. And this one is called My Side of the Mountain. It is by Jean Craighead George, and it's a Newbery Honor book, which means the Newbery Foundation thought it was a good book. It didn't win for the year it was published, but it was an honorable mention. And I'm going to read you the back of it before we get started. So it says, Sam Gribley is a terribly unhappy child living in his family's crowded New York City apartment. So, armed with just the bare necessities, a penknife, a ball of cord, and some flint and steel, and the clothes on his back, he runs away to the mountains. There, Sam must rely on his own ingenuity and the resources of the great outdoors to survive, and he discovers a whole new side of himself that he never knew existed. Now, I picked this book because I read it when I was in 4th or 5th grade for the first time, and the book, not the grade. It really sparked an interest in nature and the great outdoors and animals. That is why we check on the eagle in South Florida and things like that, because it's something I really enjoy now because of this book. So I like to encourage you guys to always try new authors, try new books. Maybe you won't like it, but you don't know until you try it, and maybe it'll make maybe it will spark a new interest for you guys that you didn't know you had. And I don't know if you guys can see out of the corner of my phone, right there, I'm joined by Herbie today. So yesterday you guys saw Marion. Now Herbie's with me. He's just going to chill there probably the whole time. But here's the first chapter. So it says, in which I am holed up in a snowstorm. So I am on a mountain in my tree home, and the people have passed by here without even knowing I'm here. The house is a hemlock tree, 6 feet in diameter, and it must be as old as the mountain itself. I came upon it last summer, and dug and burned it out until I made a snug cave in the tree in which I now call home. My bed is on the right as you enter, and is made of ash slates and covered in deerskin. On the left is a small fireplace about a knee high. It's clay and stones. It has a chimney that leads the smoke through the knothole. I chipped out 3 other knotholes to let the fresh air in. The air is coming in and it's bitter cold. It must be below 0 outside, but I can still sit here in my tree and write with my bare hands. The fire is small too. It doesn't take too much fire to warm this tree room. Now it's the 4th of December, I think. It might be the 5th, because I'm not sure, because I haven't recently counted the notches in the aspen pole that's my calendar. I've just been too busy gathering nuts and berries, and smoking venison and fish, and small game to keep up with the exact date. Now the lamp I'm writing with is deer fat, poured into a turtle shell with a strip of my old city trousers for a wick. It snowed all day yesterday and today. I haven't been outside since the storm began, and I'm bored for the first time that I ran away from home 8 months ago. I am healthy and well. The food is good. Sometimes I like to eat turtle soup, and I now know how to make acorn pancakes. I keep my supplies in the wall of the tree in wooden pockets that I chopped out myself. Every time I've looked into those pockets during the last 2 days, I felt just like a squirrel. Which reminds me, I haven't seen a squirrel in a whole day before the snow began. I guess they're holed up too and eating their stored nuts too. I wonder if the Baron, that's what I call the weasel who lives under the big boulder to the north of my tree, is also done up. Well, anyway, I think the storm's dying down because the tree is not crying so much. When the wind really blows, the tree moans right down to the roots, which is where I am. Tomorrow I hope the Baron and I can tunnel out into the sunlight. I wonder if I should dig the snow, but that would mean I'd have to put it somewhere, and the only place is my nice snug tree. Maybe I'll go pack with my hands as I go. I always dug snow out from the top and never from under. But the Baron must dig out the snow from under. I wonder where he puts it when he digs. Well, I guess I'll know in the morning. When I wrote that last winter, I was scared, and I thought I might never get out of my tree. I had been scared for 2 days, ever since the first blizzard hit the Catskill Mountains. When I came off for sunlight, which I did by simply poking my head into the soft snow and standing up, I laughed at my own dark fears. Everything was white and clean and shining and beautiful. The sky was blue, blue, blue. The hemlock grove was laced with snow, and the meadow was smooth and white. The gorge was sparkling with ice. It was so beautiful and peaceful that I actually laughed out loud. I guess I laughed because my first snowstorm was over, and it hadn't been so terrible after all. And then I shouted, I did it! I did it! And my voice never got so far. It was hushed by the tons of snow. I looked for the signs of the Baron Weasel. His footsteps were all over the boulders, and also sliding down where he had played. He must have been up for hours enjoying the first snow. Inspired by his fun, I poked my head into my tree and whistled. Frightful, my trained falcon flew to my fist, and we jumped and slid down the mountain, making holes and trenches as we went. It was good to be whistling and carefree again, because I had been so scared by the coming storm. And it's fun, in this book they have little sketches, little pencil sketches of the pictures. So that is Sam coming out of his tree, you can see him right there, and the area covered in snow. I had been working since May, learning how to make fire with flint and steel, finding the plants in which I could eat, learning how to trap and catch fish. All of this was so that when the certain blizzards struck the Catskills, I could crawl inside my tree and be comfortable and warm and have plenty to eat. During the fall and the summer, I thought about the coming winter. However, that third day of December, when the sky blackened and the temperature dropped, and the first snowflakes whirled around me, I must admit that I had wanted to run back to New York. Even the first night that I spent out in the woods, and I couldn't get a fire started, was not as frightening as the snowstorm that gathered behind the gorge and mushroomed over my mountain. I was smoking 3 trout. It was 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was busy keeping the flames low so they wouldn't leap up and burn the fish. As I worked, it occurred to me that it was awful dark for that hour in the morning. Frightful, his falcon, was leashed to her tree stub. She seemed restless and pulled on her tethers. Then I realized the forest was dead quiet. Even the woodpeckers that had been tapping around me all morning were silent. The squirrels were gone. The juncos and the chickadees and the nuthatches were gone. I looked to see if the Baron Weasel was there. He was not around, and I looked up. From my tree you could see the gorge behind the meadow. White waters poured between the black boulders and cascaded down to the valley below. The water that day was dark as the rocks. The only sound told me was still falling. Above the darkness stood another darkness, above the clouds of winter and black and fearsome. They looked as wild as the winds that were bringing them to me. I grew sick with fright. I knew I had enough food. I knew everything was going to be perfectly all right, but I didn't know that that would help. I was scared, and I stamped out the fire and pocketed the fish. I tried to whistle for Frightful, but couldn't purse my lips tight enough to get out anything but So I grabbed her hide straps that were attached to her legs, and we dove through the deer skin into my tree room. I put Frightful on the bedpost and curled up in a ball on the floor. I thought about New York and the noise and the city and the lights, and how the snowstorm always seemed to be very friendly there. I thought about our apartment, too. At that moment, it seemed bright and light and warm, and I kept saying to myself, there were 11 of us in it. Mom, Dad, 4 brothers, 4 sisters, and me. And not one of us liked it. Well, except perhaps little Nina, but she was too young to know. Dad didn't even like it a little bit. He had been a sailor once, but when I was born, he gave up the sea and worked in the docks in New York. Dad didn't like the land, he liked the sea. It was big and wet and endless. Sometimes he would tell me about great-grandfather Gribley, who owned land in the Catskills, and felled trees and built a home and plowed the land, only to discover that he wanted to be a sailor. The farm failed, and great-grandfather Gribley went to sea. As I lay with my face buried in the sweet, greasy smell of my deerskin, I could hear Dad's voice saying, that land is still in the family name. Somewhere in the Catskills is an old beach with the name Gribley carved into it. It marks the northern border of the Gribley's Folly. But the land is no place for a Gribley. The land is no place for a Gribley, I said. The land is no place for a Gribley. And here I am, 300 feet from the beach where Gribley is carved into it. I fell asleep at that point, and when I awoke, I was hungry. I cracked some walnuts, got down the acorn flour I had pounded out with a bit of ash to remove the bite. I reached for the door for a little snow and stirred it up to make some acorn pancakes. I cooked them on top of a tin can, and as I ate them, smothered in blueberry jam, I knew that this land was just a place for a Gribley. And that's chapter 1. So I'm going to post this. You guys can let me know what you think. There's a couple interesting things about how this book is written, what genre it is, and I kind of want to see if you guys can figure it out without me giving you too many hints. So comment below what you think about the book so far, where you think the story's going to go, make some predictions. You guys know the drill. You're really smart and you're really good at this. So I'm going to just see what you guys observe from the book, and then I will post tomorrow, and the chapter is called I'll Give You This Hint, and it says, in which I get started on this venture. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.